fellow councillors, Mayor Judy, members of staff, gallery, and people online. Welcome to Monday, July 4th, Policies and Procedures meeting for the Town of Olds. And I'd like to call the meeting to order at 1:01. Let's look at the agenda. Is there any additional items, additions, deletions that we make to the agenda? Hearing none, let's move forward with the question. Somebody would like to make a motion to adopt? Mayor Judy?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. I so move that we accept the minutes as presented, please, for June 6, 2022 Committee of Council Policies and Priorities meeting.
I think we're asking for the adoption of the agenda. Mayor Judy?
Okay. I so move the adoption of the agenda with no additions.
Last ask for questions, concerns? None? All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. It's passed. Now we'll move on to the adoption of the previous minutes from June 6th, was it? Any additions, deletions, changes, corrections? Councillor Harvey?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented from June 6, 2022.
Thank you. Any further question? All in favor? Passed. Thank you. Moves us to section 3, which is reports. CAO Williams, who would you like to speak to this?
Director Grieco is going to take the introduction for the first delegation.
Thank you. So just in providing the operational update, capital projects, Highway 27 and 70th Ave. We're still awaiting final sign-off. That should be completed late spring, early summer. 68th Roundabout is now obviously open to 48th Street to allow access into the industrial section. The 2022 municipal improvement projects, we did remove one of the projects due to budgeting. The other remaining projects, they've all gone out for tender and the tenders have been signed. So we do have successful completion in that part of the project, and we'll be moving forward with those projects in the coming weeks. Other projects on the go, we do have the Toboggan Hill has been successfully awarded. We are already having a project kickoff meeting to be held early this month. The outdoor skating rink is also well underway. That contract has been awarded, and we should be breaking ground on both of those projects fairly shortly. The user group for the mixed slow pitch, they're going to be removing the mound at OR Hedges and Diamond 3, so we're happy that we can get some volunteers with the addition of Rotary Park, Rotary Athletic Park. We're having the slow pitch user group is going to be helping us remove that mound so it can be used for slow pitch. So we're looking forward to working with that user group. Moving on to water and sewer. We did have one water break in this reporting period. We have had a lot of rain. We're still awaiting to do the finalized repair on that water break. And we are also awaiting quotes on our town catch basin repair program. I have a little bit more to report with respect to catch basins later on in the presentation. Moving over to Parks and Recreation, the flowers have arrived. They've been placed throughout the community. Many residents and community members are noticing that we have 30 hanging baskets this year and a total of 74 planters. In terms of CET, so our CET has been hired and he's working. The first thing we're working on is the water meter pilot project. So again, this water meter pilot project, it is a project that will enhance our capabilities. We're going to be selecting anywhere, budget permitting, from 50 to 100 residents to receive these new and improved water meters. The meters do sense pressure drops, so we will be able to isolate areas of problems. If there's a pressure drop, you'll be able to know that there's a potential leak in the area. We're working on our library wayfinding sign. That's a project. We all know that the library sign, there's been some challenges with that. We're working on providing wayfinding sign and getting that repaired. Moving over to Alberta Transportation, operations, Alberta Transportation and Volker Stephen, we all met and discussed some issues along Highway 27 and the 2A corridors. To summarize the meeting, what we're going to be doing is a total complete assessment throughout the Highway 27 and 2A corridor. That assessment is going to include signage, intersection safety, line painting, and a number of other items to address some of the concerns around the corridor. We'll also be, there's two projects that we're going to be combined working on. There's a couple of intersections where AT has committed to help us out with some line painting and possible assistance with signage on those intersections. In terms of some of the bigger projects, there are no assigned big projects that Alberta Transportation is doing within these two corridors. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had some significant rain events, utilities, public works, and parks. We were all hands on deck in the last couple of weeks. Trouble areas were identified. We undertook flood mitigation, including some pumping in isolated areas throughout the community. We also had to work quite closely with the South Red Deer River Wastewater Commission and deal with those issues. We did receive some compliments with respect to our dealing with that situation that we had at the lift station. Operations, again, they've just been very, very busy circulating the town, making sure that catch basins are free and clear of debris. The park staff, I really want to compliment them. We had a major baseball tournament the other weekend, was looking very close to being canceled, and we had a lot of people coming in to attend the tournament. It was looking like the tournament was going to be canceled. Our park staff sat down and met with the user group along with community services. We put some effort together, put some resources out there. We were able to make sure that the tournament did proceed, and so that was very well received, and really good thing for the community to work with the user groups and for that tournament to proceed. So I'd just like to thank the Parks Department and Utilities for their efforts over the last couple of weeks. Moving on. So catch basins. Again, I mentioned previously, our utilities crews constantly making sweeps, addressing any plugged catch basins that cause potential problems within our community. We have launched what they call a catch basin infrastructure assessment. So the operations department has gone around and we have identified 46 catch basins that do need some attention. 25 of those catch basins they basically really need to be replaced. And so we've completed that assessment throughout the entire community. Part of the asset management program, what the plan would be is to repair these in phases. And again, the big part of doing the assessment was to repair them and base that on priority based on the assessment. Attached, I have a few pictures of what different catch basins look like. On 50th Ave, you can see that the arm is there. So on the top left corner, that assessment might be a 1. If it is a safety risk, like with the entire arm removed, that would be 1. That would be slated for replacement. Along 45th Street, you can see the entire arms are basically gone. So we want to make sure that that we repair these based on priority and based upon their view in terms of a safety perspective as well. Planning and development, we've been working on a draft development agreement. This has been sent out to the Vistas for review. Williams Ave, the other item with planning and development is Williams Ave has officially been designated a road. I want to highlight that it's not formally open yet, but it has been officially named as a road. And we'll be looking to open the road, and residential development is going to begin shortly. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Scott, for your report. I open the floor for any questions to Director Greco. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Daley. Through you to Director Greco. With regards to the pilot project on the water meter, you'd mentioned that you'd be looking at priority areas where obviously there's some concerns with water loss. Now, how would this be rolled out? Like, how are you approaching each resident individually? Are you contacting them? Like, how are you contacting them? And you know, what happens if they say they're not interested in participating?
Yeah. So obviously we've identified a couple of areas in town that we would really like the meters. We will be approaching those residents most likely via mail. I don't think we'll be going door to door, but we'll follow up with a letter. If residents want to deny the meter, I would think that they're in their purview to deny that meter. But again, the water does need to be metered, and it will be metered, whether or not somebody else would want that. I'm most likely thinking that somebody would want that meter because it can identify through an app based on a different phase of the project. You would be able to see pressure drops on your phone, so it has that that intellectual capability, if you will. So we're expecting that any recipients of the pilot program would probably be more than willing to be a part of it.
Mayor Dole.
Thank you, Deputy Daley. This conversation came up once before where I shared the fact that the first round that we had, my question was the same question, and there was nobody that denied them the first time round, that they were all very appreciative of them, of the fact they had them, and these ones are twice as improved as the ones we had the first time round. So if we educate well, I'm sure that, I'm almost certain most people would take them. I would hazard to say why they wouldn't want them. They certainly do help even your neighbors for water loss.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. And just a quick question for Director Greco. Can you remind me again or inform me as far as the prioritization of the meters? How was that determined? You referenced where there were perhaps water or water loss issues. Could you just take me through again how we've prioritized where the pilot program will go? Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Well, throughout the community, we have, there are certain areas of the community that will have aging infrastructure, what we would call aging infrastructure. So those would be the number one candidates to be a part of the water meter pilot project. The other thing that would take into consideration is if in the community we have areas where we see pressure drops. So a lot of times with water leaks, again, we don't see them. Quite often we're notified of somebody maybe seeing a drop in their pressure. We've done that before where we get a phone call and we go out there and we, once we're in the ground, we do the actual dig and then we find out that, hey, there was an issue. There's a ground rod through maybe a water line that somebody had not discovered. So, but primarily it'll be based on aged infrastructure, where we figure that's the infrastructure was the oldest, and number two would be areas where we've had those pressure drops.
Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we know when the last time we changed a catch basin in the town was?
That would have been last summer. I don't have those exact details, but that would have been last summer. We replace them every year. I just emphasize that we put more resources towards these catch basins.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. And just further to my, take us back to the question on the meters. And yeah, I think it's a great idea, great pilot project, given the newer technology. My question is, do we have a process so of our citizens that are watching this or will watch it after the fact and may not be in a, what I'll call a problem area with infrastructure or pressure, but say, hey, I want one of those meters. Do we have a process to deal with those calls that may come in, or we're not anticipating any, or?
Well, certainly we can base it on individual requests. But again, we want to focus these water meters on those troubled areas. I realize we don't have enough for every single resident. The other thing that we can do throughout the project is once we have these installed is we'll be looking into the data. That's what it will give us. And so it will give us the data to start to know, okay, what area do we want to focus on next? Because obviously to replace every single meter within the town is a sizable investment.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. And just to go along with that line of questioning, what is the price of each of these meters? And would there be an opportunity for people to actually buy one if they want to participate in the pilot project? To say if somebody wants to actually just go ahead and buy it as opposed to the town purchasing?
Yeah, I don't have the exact cost with me. I believe they're around $1,000 a unit. So I haven't thought about that question, but that's something we could entertain is if members of the public want to come forward and pay for the meter. I think we would definitely be open to that.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you. I'm going to get off of meters and ask a different question, if that's okay. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Daley. Through you, obviously, to Director Greco. With regards to the Toboggan Hill, now you said the contract was awarded. Did that come in on budget, or what were we looking at for that?
Yeah, that one has come in with finalized pricing as under budget. Yeah.
Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Greco. Going back to the municipal improvement projects and your 57th Avenue Lane development and your 52nd Street Road construction and utility replacement, we will be notifying the surrounding residents when construction does begin, correct? Because I know in the past, prior to your time and even my time on council, there was a communication lapse where people weren't notified when, per se, roads were going to be blocked off or that type of thing. So I just want to ensure that that communication will be forthcoming to the residents that it affects.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be working with our communications department at notifying everybody. That is part of the scope of the project as well, with having our CET involved, working with our engineering consultants on notifying the public as well. And some of the projects actually do have, one of the projects on here has an effect with the post office. So, you know, we will be communicating that out and notifying residents.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. Just to go further along that line, and thank you, Councillor Blatz, for bringing up that communication. I would like to make sure that we do the same thing for the outdoor skating rink whenever that gets started, because that's going to be in Centennial Park, and that's a very well-used park. And I would hate to see how much disruption that's going to be when they start construction on that. So we would definitely need to get communication out on that.
Yeah, duly noted, and that is a park that's used throughout the summer for many events. And part of that communication is both via social media through our communications department and possibly even through newspaper as well.
Councillor Wells?
Yeah, just curious about the rain event, and any thoughts yet on how we kind of, past 5 years, we were one of the leading communities in reducing I&I. And this past rain event, we kind of beat everybody. So I kind of wondering what the issue is there, if you haven't given any thought to it.
Can you clarify I&I? Sorry, Councillor.
Oh, the
Walsh.
infiltration of stormwater in our sewer system. I'm just curious if that's an issue, or what was the cause for the lift station being overrun with so much water?
Yeah, in terms of the final cause, I mean, South Red Deer River Wastewater Commission, they are primarily responsible for that lift station. We did provide some assistance to them in dealing with that. In terms of infiltration, we have not seen the finalized numbers as of yet. In terms of what those infiltration numbers are. I'm not sure if we can get an accurate number, but we can work with South Red Deer River at getting a quantifiable number to that. I don't know how exact that will be. I think that will get flushed out here in the coming weeks as the bills come in with respect to infiltration. Infiltration is very, very important for us to deal with, and you know, moving forward, we have to have infiltration at top of mind when we're talking about our asset management program.
CAO?
Thank you, Councillor Daley. Just to expand on Councillor Walsh's comments and Director Grieco's answer, with the Red Deer Commission, we haven't had a chance to meet them yet. They've been understandably quite busy. The issue we have primarily, I think the question answer first, is that lift station is relatively very new. And in recent years, I know 2021 wasn't the best gauge, but certainly 2020 and several years earlier, the rainfall moisture levels were comparable certainly to what we've seen this year, but we didn't have those problems as well. And so once we get that monthly cycle of what has gone through those that lift station versus what we pumped, which will be an estimate based on the pump's capacity, it'll let us get a better understanding of what was roughly infiltrated through our system. From there, we have to look at if it's the lift station's capacity issue in combination with our own infrastructure issues. But unfortunately, right now, we have a lot more questions than answers. So it's forthcoming, though, as a high priority.
Any further questions for Director Greichel? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. I would move that we accept the verbal operations update as presented for information.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any other further comments? Hearing none, ask for the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None? Passed. Thank you, Director Greco, for your information and keeping us up to date with what's going on around town in the Operations Department. Very much appreciated. With that, that'll take us to item number 4 on our agenda, which is presentations and delegations. At this time, I'd like to welcome our guests from the Olds Rotary Club, and I would like to ask Mr. Jim Smith to come up and present to us the presentation on your environmental project. So,
Are we on? Thanks, Deputy Mayor Daley, Mayor Dahl, councillors. So, first of all, on behalf of my Olds Rotary Club, thanks for making this opportunity for us to be here and present you with what we kind of think you might be, an idea you might be kind of excited about. I'll leave that for you to determine. And I want to say the good news is that you're not going to have to listen to me for very long. My colleagues Darlene McDonald and Randy Smith, no relation, are going to lead you through the project. But while I'm talking about other Rotarians, can I also introduce one of our committee members, Patsy Hickok, and Mary Turner, who I'm sure most of you probably know. So, for context, let me say that I know some of the material that you received told you that Rotary International had about a year or so ago officially adopted the protection and enhancement of an environment as an official cause. So on a local basis, our club says, okay, what projects do we think might be beneficial to our community, sustainable, and aligned with environment? Most of you have been to the Rotary Athletic Park. Beside the Rotary Athletic Park runs what we know to be Olds Creek, which is part of the headwaters of Olds Creek, that then eventually runs into the Little Red Deer River, which runs to the Red Deer River and eventually comes back in our taps. So kind of an important potential piece there. We might have molecules in your drinking water from the runoff ditch. We all know the importance of parks to our community well-being. We also know, having just heard some of the water stories that you're talking about right now, we know the importance of protecting our watersheds. The project we want to talk to you today about kind of checks both of those boxes and a bunch of others. And because I'm so old, they asked me if I could tell you a story about one of the parks that I found a bit inspiring. I came and looked initially at Confederation Park in the late 60s, Confederation Park in Calgary. And at that time, it was really not much more than a glint in the collective eye, you might say. It was a skinny little intermittent stream that ran along the base of a broad treeless valley that still had the remnants of some agricultural production, some grazing, and so on and so forth. Now, I don't know if any of you have been there recently, had you walked on it or biked on it or partied on it or had a wedding or had the kids party there, but it's become a fabulous park. It's matured into a wonderful natural asset for Calgarians and for those of us who happen to hang out around the edge of Calgary. And so I guess our club was kind of inspired with that notion, and we said, well, gosh, is there any reason why our Rotary Club might not be able to help our Olds community to build something similar with our natural assets? We have a nice base there to enhance that Rotary Athletic Park. We can check some of these important boxes and build something that's sustainable and beautiful. And that's what Darlene and Randy are now going to talk to you about. We have a whole lot more questions that still have to be answered, but we wanted to share this idea with you. So with that, I don't know who's up first. Darlene? Thanks very much.
Figured I better lower that. So when Rotary International established the environment as one of our new areas of focus, it was kind of exciting for some of us as Rotarians to be able to think outside the box and what else could we do. So we wanted to make sure that we were being smart and sustainable when we thought about the environment. So we sat as a group, and I have to say, pretty guiltily, regularly over at the Rotary Athletic Park, and it's absolutely stunning. And when you sit there, you think, wow, is this the place that we start? And it certainly did become the place that we started. And it was important to us to find a project that the entire community could be engaged in. It's been a tough couple of years, so just fundraising for money to do something environmental wasn't quite on our list. We wanted to really worry about engagement, about getting people outside again, about getting people interacting with each other. So we really want to fundraise for this opportunity for people to participate. We wanted people to give their time, their energy, to get their hands dirty, to be able to work with us in the community and not just be about opening up their bank accounts, because, you know, we do that a fair bit, and it's been a rough couple of years. So we wanted to make sure that we could find a project that allowed people to participate however they could. And that's what led us to the Rotary Creek Enhancement Project. The mouse seems to have disappeared. Okay, are you on slide 3? Oh, beautiful. Okay. So while we're still in our infancy stages, we're seeking permission to move along with investigation. So we know we have goals, which will constantly remain, and they are to engage in the community on a project that must be sustainable and have a positive environmental impact. We will contain a small environmental impact ourselves by using locally, or at least centrally Alberta, material and support. We will provide an opportunity for the community to be engaged as a whole. So really, what are we doing? Oh, this is the exciting part. This is the part that wants me getting my hands dirty. We want to bring back some native trees along that creek. We want all sizes of tree growth and shrubs along the creek. We're looking at about 500 meters. We all know that with trees and shrubs, we'll bring back small animals, birds, possibly fish that rely on the biodiversity in order to thrive. As Jim mentioned, our creek feeds the Red Deer River and leads to the water sources that feeds our community. So this makes it critical for us to want to keep those water sources healthy. This is the one step in doing that, but we also saw lots of added benefits as we do this. And they are an aesthetically pleasing area around the park, a much appreciated windbreak that patrons enjoying the area will appreciate, and small animals and birds that thrive and contribute to the ecosystem. We know that many municipalities are recognizing their natural assets as an important and effective element within their communities, their health, and their quality of life. We feel that this project will work to benefit that as well. And maybe even someday we'll see kids fishing in the creek along the way, because fish will be happy to return.
I'll move this up now. Like Darlene and Doug, I'm really excited about this project. It's not often that we get to do things like this, and I think hands-on and involving the community will allow us to build partnerships and doing something really important for Olds. Darlene mentioned we're in infancy, so a lot of to be determined things that are going on here, and before we get permission, you know, we really couldn't go out and start actively pursuing this project, so that's why we're here today. But it is our intention as the Olds Rotary Club is to go out and fundraise where we need to, approach local businesses, actually leverage anywhere we can see $1, a tree, a plant, and involve other service groups into making this thing come to fruition. So we really do see this as while we want to take the lead on this, we see this as building partnerships in our community and beyond. We're looking at a sustainable project. So we don't want this to be a one-shot deal. And so we see this as a 2 to 3 year project, so it's not all going to get done in 1 year. Everybody is tired, and everybody is getting out, but I think from a group like Rotary or the other service clubs in town here, we are looking in ways to engage volunteers, and I think over the long term, not only is this going to be healthy for the creek and all the things that Darlene said, I think this is really going to be healthy for our community and our service clubs to get out there and do the hands-on things. And plant trees and do all those great things. So we're looking at about 2 to 3 year program. So we've set some milestones. And so first milestone obviously is that we need to have a memorandum of understanding with the town of Olds. This is our first partnership that we're developing right now. And I think if you don't know where you're going, you'll never arrive there. So we want to lay out a plan and do it step in step with the town. We want to have a landscape designer work on the project and identify the materials that we'll need that are low maintenance and that are easy for us to go out and plant. As I mentioned, utilizing the different service clubs, the school kids, anywhere we can leverage those partnerships. But we want it to be low maintenance at the end of this project so that we can sustain it going forward. Obviously, we want to involve the community, and as I've already mentioned, I think there's a huge opportunity not only for the service clubs, but the school kids and the college, and even other businesses out there to adopt this as a community, a work day, a work bee, and so we think it's great for the community. We're actually looking at an educational component as an option and have interpretive signs out there identifying different areas, different species of trees, and so on. And we're also open to, and it's like any good idea, then you get everybody else coming up with good ideas, but we're also open to having the conversation of a community garden, a food forest, and or having fruit trees and the like installed in this. I probably jumped way ahead.
Sorry.
Yep. So what we're looking, it was right on. So what we're here today and we're asking, or the ask of the town of Olds, is that you provide direction to staff that they can work with the Olds Rotary Club to develop that MOU so that we can get started. And I can tell you that our club has endorsed this project. They're quite excited about it. Probably as much as us on the committee, and so we're looking for that direction from council to staff to work with us and develop that MOU and get this going. Our pie in the sky outlook here is that we may even get something done this fall if we can get the MOU done, get our design in there so that we're not a designer in there so that we're not just throwing trees willy-nilly here and there, and have some sort of plan going forward.
I just think they let the most excited person finish it. So here's the drawing overhead that we pulled from Google Maps. I just want you to look at how plain it is along the outside stretch where the water is. And imagine yourself in 50 years, or if you can't imagine yourself in 50 years, imagine your children, your grandchildren, or your great-grandchildren as they visit the Rotary Athletic Park. Imagine the same story that Jim just shared at the start of this, where the trees tower high and they sit underneath and enjoy the shade as they watch their children play ball. That's the goal. Thank you.
Thank you to the presenters. I will now open the floor for questions. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley, and through you, first, I would like and foremost like to thank the Rotary Club for your continued support for community building within our community. It's greatly appreciated, and I believe this is a wonderful project, and I think it is something council should consider endorsing. Absolutely. So my question actually is directed through you to CO Williams. Who within our administration would we direct to start working with the memorandum of understanding? And CAO?
Thanks for that. To start, I would put it to Director Grieco and specifically our parks lead, Bobby Joe, just to determine the types of trees and that maintenance aspect that was mentioned by the club. And the location plus the type, I would say, probably plays into that question. So that would be our first step.
Supplemental?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so that kind of goes into my next question then. So when they say, when these people have provided that they would like partnership with other community groups, then perhaps if this project could go forward sooner than later with a memorandum of understanding, would it be possible to partner also with the Olds College? Because they do have an arborist group that go to school through a program, I believe. And that would be an ideal fit, I think, to have them all partner together along with the town of Olds and the Lions Club and other service clubs as well. And then that would be, I think, a win-win for everyone.
I would agree. The more collaboration, generally, the better. I would, of course, put it to the Rotary Club again to see what kind of outreach they're looking to do, and if the town can be of assistance to making those connections. But I'm willing to bet you all know a lot more people than I do. So, please.
I'm not sure if you're truly looking for an answer for that, but that's exactly our thought, is to invite the college as well as all the community organizations to the table to make sure that it is truly a community effort and to be very mindful of what we plan. So we definitely want to invite the parks staff. We've already had some connections with them just to start the conversation, and we certainly would want to involve everybody. We'd like to take the lead, so it's not up to parks to have to do all the meetings and gather all the collection. We'd like to participate that way as a club and be able to pull all those people together as much as we can to ease the burden on the town and the staff.
Director Greichel?
Yeah, I just want to comment. We did have the opportunity to sit down with Jim and kind of talk about and brainstorm some of the different ideas. Although we don't have a finalized proof concept at all, what is really nice is the Rotary really wants to work with us and make sure that we plant not only sustainable trees, but Randy talked a little bit about the maintenance of the trees and just what would be involved from a maintenance perspective. There's various different species to plant. Some species require a little less maintenance, a little less taxing for our town resources. And so, we've even talked about, the possibility of an edible forest, things like that, that are sustainable and manageable within the town and the operations department. So,
Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Daley. And I concur with some of the comments that Councillor Blatt said, including, thanking the Rotary Club for all of its efforts, and especially with the Rotary Park in particular. And this is a really good project, I think, for that area, because I do agree that it would be nice to have the trees going through that location, and certainly it would beautify that area even more. My only concern is budgeting in regards to the cost of the town. We have very tight budgets right at the moment, and obviously that's going to be a constraint for us, and manpower. We are missing some staff, and so that would be something that we would have to overcome. And I appreciate that you would be taking on the role of organizing this, because it certainly does need to come from the grassroots, for sure. I guess the other comment I would just like to make would be, as well as with the college, I know that they do have landscape design program there, and they might be very beneficial to have on board right away, as well as obviously the town's endorsement of this. So something that I would encourage you to approach as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. And yeah, my brief comment is I thank the delegation, the Rotary Group, for the presentation. I think it's a fantastic idea. I echo the comments from Councillor Ryan relative to the longer-term ownership of the area, and to the extent then, and we'll let the details flush out as we go down, but to the extent that it's a natural area, that may mitigate some of the cost and maintenance in the area. And anytime I see a project plan or a project, even though it was very high level with some milestones and gate posts, I like that. So I support going on to the next step.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz? Okay, Councillor Blatz?
Thank you. And just for clarification here, when we talk about cost, I noted here in the in-kind gifts that you would also be looking for donations of trees and shrubs. So, okay, thank you. I see everyone's head nodding, so I appreciate that.
Deputy Mayor and Council, if I may just add a little something. I think we mentioned during the presentation that, yeah, this is very preliminary. We have a preliminary concept plan. Like you, we have lots of questions. We have lots of options that have to be explored. I mean, just for example, and thank you, Scott, we had a really good meeting with the Parks and Operations folks a while ago. But I mean, just there's some things that we need to sort through, and which will be sorted through as we get a preliminary first step, a memorandum of understanding. For example, I mean, we could buy 100 trees this big, or we can get 1,000 trees this big. Maybe there's a hybrid approach here of some kind where we might fundraise and look for donations for maybe a collection of preliminary larger ones to set some parameters, maybe followed with some infill from some smaller ones. And again, I think Randy mentioned that we see this as kind of a jog rather than a sprint. So we'd rather get something started and saying, okay, let's see how that's working. Do we need to make some adjustments as we go along here? And we think that we want to build the flexibility in the MOU that we might be able to do some of those things, rather than have a hard. There's going to be 350 of those and 400 of those and that's got to be done by October the 1st, or whatever. You know, we think that some flexibility is important. We want to make this a project that our community and our town is really proud of, and it's going to be sustainable at the end of the day. We know we've got some things going on like the Toboggan Hill. So we need to work these things all together and make sure that we don't plant trees on the Toboggan Hill, right? That's really hard on noggins when you hit it on the wrong way. Anyhow, so for what it's worth, and similarly, I guess I'd say with respect to our community groups, we've had preliminary chats, for example, with some of the athletes and the Ball Association and so on. And there's a lot of excitement and people that would be interested in doing that. And I guess I would say one of the things we've kind of been guided by, an old proverb that says, societies are great when old folks plant trees that they might never enjoy the shade from. Well, in this case, it's not just we old folks planting trees. We're looking at the young people planting trees too. But the principle remains. So with that, we're looking at engaging many people in the community, and we thought it would be better to have, a single kind of contact point. We're pretty good at engaging people, college, other service groups, athletics associations, youth groups, and so on and so forth. And that's what we intend to do. So with that, if that helps with your decision, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. C.L. Williams?
Yeah, just for council's purpose, I think with the Rotary's presentation today and their ask that essentially just to build this business case. That council will have a future opportunity to comment once there's more information. So I think this effort falls well within line of what council has wanted to do, and community engagement. We have willing participants. So from administration's point of view, assuming council is good, we'd be happy to work with the Rotary Club and other interested parties to move this along and present to council in the future for more consideration.
Thank you, CAO. I would also like to thank the delegation for your presentation here today and all the other great projects that you've done in the community of Olds. And I also feel that this is a well worth project to move forward with. And I look forward to the finalized plan coming forward to us for a decision. It'd be great. Thank you. And I ask for Mayor Dahl.
Happy to put a motion on the floor. Once again, thank all of you for your information and work towards bringing this presentation to council. I would move that council accept the Rotary Club of Olds Creek Enhancement Project presentation for information, and further that council grant permission to continue to investigate through our CAO Williams and staff and bring back to a future council meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. All in favor? Opposed? None. Motion passed. Thank you.
I look forward to the food forest.
The next delegation on our agenda is the fire truck and handy van to Mexico update. And Mr. Randy Smith's going to be our presenter. Thank you.
Here we go.
I can click. I can try and remember anyways. There's only a few clicks on this one. To the chair and council, yeah, my name is Randy Smith and a member of the Olds Rotary Club. And usually when, in my normal job as a fire chief for Rocky View County, when I come before council and I talk fire trucks, they start to worry about the cost. This is a good news story. I'm not asking for money for a fire truck, so that's good. It's always fun then. Yeah, I'm really excited about this project. I've been involved with it for a number of years now, and Rocky View County is tied with Olds for sending fire trucks or equipment down, and so it's such a really good project. And we wanted to tell you, we've already gotten the vehicles; they've already been delivered, but we wanted to report back and let you know where your vehicles and what sort of use is happening with the vehicles. So before I start, I think I'm going to ask Mary to come up and tell you a little bit about Rotary, because this does fit so well with Rotary.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Mayor Daly and Mayor Judy Dahl. I just want to tell you a little bit about what Rotary is, in case you didn't know, and just to refresh your memories of what Rotary is. It is a global organization internationally of 1.4 million volunteers. We have 500 districts across the globe. Each district has about 50 clubs. Our district goes from Ponoka in the north right down to the U.S. border, from Kindersley, Saskatchewan, right over to the BC border. We have 46 clubs in our geographic district. We have 15 Interact clubs, which are high school level, 4 Rotaract clubs, which are college and university level, and really cool, we have 4 Early Act clubs, which are the little elementary school guys that are in there for Rotary. So it's a pretty awesome organization. The district is governed by a board of directors of 12 members, and the district governor chairs that group of individuals, which turns over every year. Rotarians are volunteers who see a world where people unite to take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, in ourselves, and everywhere that they reach. So it's a pretty cool service organization. Just wanted to open with that introduction, and now I'll pass it back to Randy to tell you more about what we did with the vehicles from Olds.
Thank you.
Super. So, as we started out, and this is really what excites me about Rotary in my career in the fire service, you know, it's all about team. And that's how a fire service works. And so Rotary, as Mary has said, is a huge team. And that team, for this particular project, the Los Amigos project, is certainly all about team. And really it starts out with organizations such as the Town of Olds, Rocky View County, and many other municipalities, and that's getting the equipment for us to take down to Mexico. Without that equipment, there is no project, and we can't go there. Second thing is the fundraising that goes into this project. Without the funds to get this equipment down there, it just doesn't get down there, and it's a 6-day, 7-day. Seems like a month to drive down there. No, and just imagine most of us don't have 11-year-old or 20-year-old vehicles, and we're driving them the 4,000 kilometers or whatever it is. And so it is quite a journey going down. They're long days where you can become long-haul truckers. Mary did awesome, by the way. She drove down this year. And but yeah, so it takes we need to get the equipment, we need to fundraise to get the equipment, and then there's the team that comes together for the drive down. It's a learning experience. I've gone 3 times, and it's always a learning experience going down. You meet so many different people, and we can see Mary putting decals on the handy van here. No, put them on. Put them on. Yeah. And it's interesting as you're going down, and the people that you meet, and they come up and they, you're from Olds, or you're from Rocky View County. 3 years ago, before COVID, we took down a truck from Langdon out of Rocky View County, and we were actually way down in the States, and this couple came up to me and they said, Langdon, Alberta, and they were from Langdon. And so, yeah, we took your truck on a road trip. So you get people, Canadians and Americans, and they come and they talk about what's going on, and they think it's amazing that's happening. Before I get started, some people envision when we get down there and we hand these vehicles off that it's a handout for these communities. And it's anything but. They certainly take ownership of the equipment. I've been in Mazatlan and I've seen trucks from Grand Prairie and all over Alberta, and the trucks have been down there for 10 years. They're taking better care of it than we did in our fire departments when they got here. I'm like, holy smokes, that's good. They really do appreciate the equipment. They don't have the same tax base that we have up here that we enjoy. And so what they get is, a lot of it is volunteer, or they have to fundraise themselves out on the street with fireman boots and the such. So it's a hand up for them, not a hand out, and they take this going forward. And I'll have a little story when we get to the handy van as we go forward. So yeah, on our trip down, and Patsy was one of our drivers. She was awesome. That was really the first time I met Patsy, because I'm new to Olds, and the first thing that Jim Crawford said, boy, can she ever drive? so it's awesome. So she got to drive this big 82 passenger, 72 passenger bus, big bus with Jim. Yeah. And it snowed on the way down, believe it or not. So you get all kinds of weather as you're going down. It's not all really hot, although a portion of it is really hot, I can tell you. And fire trucks don't have air conditioning, by the way. And so as we got down we got through the American border, a little bit of a hitch there. They made us go in, they lined us up against the wall, but we happened to bring our own lawyer with us from Lethbridge Club, and she got it straightened out all, and they let us go, and they smiles, and they're all happy for us. And so away we went. Then we got to the U.S.-Mexican border, and things do change, plans change as you go along. So some of the stuff that we were bringing down, firefighter turnout gear, some equipment, and we had wheelchairs and just a variety of equipment that we also take down with the trucks. But again, this is where the partnerships come in play. And the Rotary Club of Mazatlan, the coordinator there had a friend. He's always got a friend somewhere, and he was able to get us a warehouse, and they actually put the stuff in a warehouse, and they were able to bring some of the stuff over the border later on when it wasn't just a bunch of Rotarians doing it, and we also had to leave one of our ambulances there. But the next day it almost beat us to Mazatlan. They drive a little faster than us, and so we got it there. But these are the things that go on when we're doing the trip. You've got to be very flexible and adaptable. And we just work with so many different partnerships as we go along. Yeah, and so there's the handy van, and I think I'll turn it back to Mary to talk about the handy van.
Thank you so much. I think it's always fun for all of you to know what happened to the handy bus. So here's the handy bus without the decals on. As you can see, we had to put the decals on when we got to warmer weather. So that picture of me earlier is not me scraping the decal, it's actually squeezing out the air bubbles in the decal as I applied the decal. So that's the fancy tool I was using. But let me tell you, the handy bus from Olds went to the city of Coolican. The city of Coolican is a population of over 1 million people. And it's gone to a lady by the individual name of Martha. Martha runs an NGO. Martha was a homeless teenager living on the streets of Coolican. And as she grew up, she decided that she'd like to give back to her community. So this lady created an NGO, and this NGO's sole purpose is to look after homeless seniors that she finds in the gutters and in the sewers of the city of Coolican. She's taking our handy bus, and she's going to use it to find these people, to bring them back to the accommodation that she's created through her NGO, to keep them safe and healthy and well to the end of their days. She's also going to partner with the city of Coolican to take others who are mobility challenged to medical appointments and to recreational opportunities in the city. When I met Martha, she was overjoyed with this gift of this handy van. And when we met this mayor of the city of Coolican, he couldn't say enough for her NGO and the way that they gave back to their community. So I have to tell you, the tears were flowing when I handed the keys of our handy bus to her hands. And when she started up that vehicle, there wasn't a dry eye in the entire council chambers. And I want you to know that that vehicle is going to be well loved and well served and well looked after for many, many, many years to come. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts to each of you, to the city of Coolican for the way it's going to look after it, to everyone in Olds, to all of yourselves. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Some of the pictures of the. So there's Mark. Yeah, Mark. My understanding of that handy van was that it really didn't like the cool weather and it caused a lot of grief for you. I can tell you that it loves warm weather. The ramp worked flawlessly. It just loved it. So it was really good. So the other vehicle that came from Olds, and that's Cor and Debbie there between, and I'm an old paramedic guy, and I look at that vehicle, and I'm a fire guy, and it's like, oh, more power. They didn't let me drive it. Steve and Mary took it most of the way. No, didn't you drive it? Steve did. Steve drove it most of the way. So this again, again being an emergency responder, and that when I take this stuff down there, and these are really important pieces of equipment. You know, you hear right across Alberta all the goings on about delayed ambulances and such. They don't have ambulances. They don't have that many ambulances, and these are communities of 50, 100 plus thousand groups. So we're very lucky here in Canada and in Alberta. So this is a heavy duty FL50, I think, Freightliner. Oh, it's great. But again, my story about a hand up in the ownership that they take in these vehicles. When this was handed over, the mayor was sitting in the back looking at all this real cool equipment, because there was defibs in there, and there was all sorts of medical equipment in this truck. And Cor went and he says to her, and he was out in the parking lot. It wasn't right when they took this picture, and he says, "Oh, I hear the air conditioning isn't working in this unit. I'll pay to get it fixed." And she looked at him and she says, "Absolutely not. This is our vehicle. We're going to take care of it." And she wasn't being dismissive of them, but they were so appreciative of the vehicle that they were out of their pocket now going to make sure that this was right. And we seen this with one of the fire trucks we took down. Unfortunately, 2 hours out of Mazatlan. The transmission went out of it. Again, partnerships. The local fire department in that area came. They got the truck, got it back to the fire hall. It was actually in Mazatlan the next morning. We used it for training because it would still pump. And no problem. We're going to get it fixed. And it was fixed within, I think, 2 weeks. It was fixed and in service in a fire hall. And again, the equipment, they really take, they're so happy to have it. They'll do whatever it takes to get the equipment working. And I can tell you, we went to the fire hall in Mazatlan, the one fire hall, to hand over a truck from Brooks. And it was not much more than a sea can and a carport. But they were so happy to have this fire truck, and it means so much. And you think of Mazatlan, if you've been there on holidays, a huge community, and they just don't have the equipment. So yeah, this ambulance went down. They were very appreciative of this ambulance. It went to work right away, and you can see there's Jim Crawford and in the project, one of the project coordinators from Lethbridge, Carl Samuels, and just trading banners. We do that in Rotary. Yeah, and this went to Topeka, and so yeah, they're very happy to have it. And again, what a great donation from a resident of Olds. They do when we go down there, and they do this celebration. It's almost a little bit overwhelming, and sometimes you feel bad, but it's the community is so proud of their community and the things that they're doing to progress, but they want to show the Canadians that they do appreciate getting the equipment. So again, just in synopsis, 6 days of driving, but just really this time it was like 3 years of preparation. It seemed like a never ending because of COVID, but usually it's a year in preparation to get things across the border into the States and into Mexico. We had 15 Canadian Rotary drivers, donations, 7 vehicles. There were 3 Mexican Rotary members that came up, and they met us at the U.S. border and in Mexican-U.S. border and drove back with us. Thank goodness, because we did get pulled over by the federales, and they wanted to take us back to the last community, but they sorted it all out, and away we went, and it was great. And again, it's just partnerships again. Yeah, and then just the countless volunteers on there. So that's our presentation. I didn't even ask for a new fire truck yet. The Rotary clubs of Mazatlan North and Mazatlan West, they did on the last day, they did do a certificate that we were to present back to council here. They are forward thinking. They said City of Olds, so they're thinking in the future, I guess. And I would like to, on behalf of the Rotary Club of Olds and our counterparts in Mexico and Mazatlan, present this to council. And the last thing I have to say is that in the future, if you happen to be decommissioning a fire truck, that we're always here. We're always looking for vehicles because, again, first step is we have to acquire the equipment. So I can guarantee you that the Rocky View County Council has heard me, and we're always looking for trucks. But if you come across vehicles, and it doesn't have to be a fire truck, the ambulances or the handicap vans, anything that school buses, they're all really do go a long ways in helping people get out of their small communities, the buses and the handicap vans, and actually improving their lives and seeing what other opportunities are out there. So this is a great project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'll open the floor for questions, and I see Councillor Blatz has her hand
Thank
up.
you, Deputy Mayor Daly, and thank you, and through you to the Rotary Club. Again, thank you so much for your community involvement. This is terrific. But I really think that I'd like to make a suggestion. Perhaps we do a photo op with the certificate for, memory's sake, perhaps with Mayor Dahl or all of council and the Rotary members here today. I know that not all that participated in the Mexico trip are present, but I think it would be a great thing to take a photo today.
Great suggestion.
Do we have a camera? Sure, we'll do it by the flags. So anybody that would like to be involved, come to the Canadian flag.
So we'll go ahead and do the picture, and then we'll continue on with Councillor Wilson. So we have just a few questions here. Councillor Wilson, I believe you're first.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. Just a quick question. How do you determine the communities in Mexico? Because, in this case, you said you had 7 vehicles. How do you determine where those vehicles are going? And I guess what the need is, whether it's a bus or a paramedic or a fire truck or whatever?
Through the chair to the councillor. That's a great question, and in fact, it really doesn't matter whether you're doing a water project, building a school in another country. One of the rules of Rotary is that we have a club in that country that we partner with, and they actually direct it. And this is the same with the Los Amigos project, where the Rotary Club of Mazatlan North and West, they are the they run the project down in Mexico. And so what happens, all the communities from across Mexico, generally through their Rotary clubs, and they have Rotary clubs in most of the communities, they'll come forward and they'll make application to the Mazatlan Rotary clubs. And what they have to show is that, one, they have a place to put the fire truck, that they have the means to sustain it, and that they have the commitment from the community to have this. And so they rate them, and then the Rotary Club of Mazatlan then decides where these units will go. They actually, I believe, they sign a document that says if they are unable to maintain it, the Mazatlan Rotary Club takes the vehicle back and then will redistribute it somewhere else. So they are making a long-term commitment for this. But yeah, it's all done in Mexico. It's not the Canadians coming down and picking and choosing.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Daley. I was going to ask something along the same lines, but I'll change my my question too. So I know that probably you'd mentioned it was 3 years in the making kind of thing to do this. So do you do it like every 3 years then, or because I know that there was a fire truck from Olds that went down, and that was only a couple of years ago. Was there a pause because of COVID, or do you try to do it every year? What's the rotation?
So this was trip 10? Yes. 10 that we go down, and generally it's every year. Just COVID really put a stop to it. In fact, I was on the trip where the Olds truck went down. It was an awesome truck, and that truck, I can tell you, and they probably, when they did their presentation, was in service before I was handing off a truck from Langdon, Alberta, and I got a text from the Rotary members that were there, and it had already been out on the highway and saved lives. So. Yeah.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Daley. Yeah, I remember that we were told that it was saving lives that almost the same day that they handed it over, so it was pretty cool. I just have a question, I guess a comment, and that would be to Mrs. Turner. Appreciate that story, and I think others would love to hear it too. So I don't know if you were able to jot all that information down and provide it to our communications person. I think it'd be nice to be able to add that into our newsletter and perhaps what happened to that vehicle and give a little bit of a story. It doesn't have to be huge, but it would be really nice for people to know, because I think it was very heartwarming for us to hear that, and certainly I think our community would like to know that vehicle is being so well used and taken care of.
Great idea. I'd be happy to do that. So one of the things that we've always thought about as Rotarians is, wouldn't it be cool if we could share some of these stories? So one of the Rotarians from the Brooks Club actually has written 2 stories. One about a fire truck from Olds named Ollie, and one about a school bus that came from the city of Brooks. And I'm not sure if the school bus has a name. But anyways, we've got these 2 stories, and one of our dreams would be to create these stories in Spanish and to distribute them to the children in the communities where we distribute the vehicles. So that's more of a long-range kind of thing, but we do have this amazing story about our fire truck, Ollie. So I don't know, if it's a lengthy story, but it's pretty cool. And just one last thing that I just want to add, I'm not sure, Randy, if he was going to add it or not, but you have to be a Rotarian to drive these vehicles down. So when you think back to kindergarten, if you ever really wanted to drive a fire truck or ride in a fire truck, because I don't have my air brake endorsement, here's your opportunity. So the next trip goes down, very seriously. Last 2 weeks of April is currently what we're planning for the next trip to Mazatlan. If you guys want to drive a fire truck or an ambulance or a school bus, you just have to join Rotary and you're in. So there you go.
Now I understand why I didn't get on the short list. Have to become a member. Thank you very much for your presentation and the great stories that go along with your efforts. Again, all the Rotarians should be very proud of the project that you're doing and how you're helping out the communities in Mexico. So is there any further questions or comments from the councillors? Then I ask for a motion. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. Yes, and thank you very much for the presentation. I'd like to move that we accept and thank the Rotary Club of Olds, Los Amigos presentation for their for information. Accept it for information.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much to the delegation. Have a great day. Takes us to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the business arising from the minutes of unfinished business. And we have correspondence that was circulated with everybody through email, I believe, but also we have the publication in front of us in our agenda package as well. And so this has been brought forward for our information, and I'd like to open the floor for any comments regarding it, and then asking for a motion for acceptance. Mayor Dahl?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. I was happy to bring the community conversation summary back at this point, and I have to say that I really was quite happy with the results that they gave on the questions that council asked. I've got, I don't know, we had 16 questions here, and look forward to hearing anything. I learned quite a bit. Like, I didn't know that, for example, when we were looking at the question was asked from us with regards to physician assistants or nurse practitioners to augment the need in communities such as Olds. And part of the answer was that there's limited physician assistant training opportunities in Alberta, but the Canadian Armed Forces has a program. Like, that's something really new for me. I would have never known that if we wouldn't have asked the question. So I was very happy with the answers, and I'll leave council report anything else they would like to add.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. I would just like to share with council and administration, shortly after the June 6th presentation discussion with AHS, Dr. Graff asked me to share that he thought council and administration had a very good grasp and understanding of the matter and their knowledge and the questions that were asked. So he just asked me to share that with council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, this is information that a lot of residents have asked too, and I was wondering, are we able to share this on our website separate from the minutes of the PMP meeting? Because we do get questions from residents, and this answers a lot of it.
I do believe that this is public information now that it's on our agenda, and that we could elect to make the decision to move this onto public forum, as in our website or even a newspaper article. I'll refer to CEO Williams for cleanup, aisle one.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley, for both those announcements. Yeah, of course, if it's council's prerogative, we could prepare this in a bit more digestible format, and either in consultation with communications release it all at once, or in piecemeal format to increase its impact, so to speak, but most definitely.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, and through you to CEO Williams, maybe further along to that, did this come in any kind of a link that could be just posted on our face or on our website that they could, click onto the link and shared by social media as well? Or did it just come in a full document such as this?
This came as a PDF document. We could create a link to our website if it was just to be posted as one big piece, and that link can be posted on social media. So
I believe that's how we received this when I asked to have this put in the agenda, and I would agree that the format that they've given us with all the details and the connections and who to call and who not to call, this is exactly what the community is asking for. So if we could keep, I would recommend, unless council feels otherwise, that we keep it in the format we received it.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. I concur. I think we should keep it in the same format. I do have a comment, though, on page 39 where they talk about the population and how they determine it. I do think that while they say trading areas are not necessarily matched to the healthcare patterns, I think in our instance, when they talked about the numbers of our population, and earlier on they also refer to having one doctor as 700 or so. I'm still concerned with regards to them looking at the number of only at 13,000 for our particular area. I think that's very low, considering how many people come from other areas to come to Olds. And I think that they need to take a look. It's not necessarily the trading area that they have to take a look at. It's the actual pattern of where people are coming from to see doctors in Olds. And I think if they actually took a look at the actual population, that would be much higher than the 13,000 they said, and closer to the 40,000. And certainly that number, the 1 to 700 ratio, would be a lot higher. And I think that would make a difference as to attracting more doctors in the future. So I don't know how we go about stressing that fact, that I think that ratio is off, but I certainly wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Any further comments? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. I guess just my general question, perhaps, well, to everybody here is, how and where does this go relative to RPAP? Right, the other delegation that we had, and the possibility of forming a committee for the or looking at recruitment and retention of health professionals, not just physicians, but health professionals in general. I'm not sure what the next step is there, or is that just sitting idly for now?
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Would you like to respond, CEO Williams? Or?
I don't think I have enough information to provide a worthwhile answer at this point, but I know just personally as a new member of the community and unable to access a physician, a family physician, the conversation, I think this is probably the start of it, if nothing else, that if there's opportunity for the town to work with AHS to improve our physician to resident ratio for the town and our catchment area, then yeah, it's something I'm certainly willing to take direction from council on. But for now, yeah, it's as best of information we could have hoped for. So.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley, and I just want to continue along that line of thought there. I really believe that although we did have a very fulsome meeting with these representatives, I believe that we need to continue the conversation. And I think we need to continue advocacy to whatever level we need to take it, because over and over and over again, I'm hearing recurring comments that people are unable to find a family physician. And it is important, and although we do have community physicians, people do like to have that connection with their own doctor. So I believe that we need to continue this conversation at whatever level and advocacy that we need to take it to.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. And yeah, obviously, I support a committee of some time, or potentially moving towards that. I think, if I think back to the delegation, the AHS delegation, I think there's more purpose to the committee than just handing out swag to potential health professionals. And if I think back to the RPAP presentation, they did indicate, again, and that was probably 2 months ago, that there was an individual at our hospital, I think a nurse, that was interested or would have been interested in sitting on such a committee. So continuing the dialogue, wholeheartedly endorse, and in the area of advocacy for sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Dahl?
And sticking to those points, I still really would like to ask council if they had any comments on the terms of reference that was sent from the mayor in regards to what they do. They've done it for past 8 years that I sent all council in regards to the terms of reference that they sent. That's very successful. And they also have a member of RPAP that sits on that. And I can certainly resend it to everyone if you wish. Because it was simple, it's effective, and it works. And if you're at this point, we've got a hire right now for 4 job postings, as you've seen here in the results. That would account when determining job postings from AHS. But again, it would be good if we could just review. Perhaps I'll send that to all council once again.
That would be great. Thank you, Mayor Dahl, for doing that. I think we have consensus around the table, thumbs up, thumbs down, whether to continue on and pursue this, to find out more information and find out how we can be more involved as a town in the physician attraction and retention area of our community. So, and what it would involve. Yes, thank you. All right, would anybody like to entertain a motion at this time? Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. And I would move that we accept the Alberta Health Services Community Conversation Summary for information and continue the conversation and advocacy as a council.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. All in favor? Councilor Blatz, sorry. Councilor Blatz. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, going back to our agenda, we have no items under the next headings, bylaws, new business, so takes us to our last heading. Mayor Dahl?
I so move adjournment of July 4th PMP meeting at 2:30 PM.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.